We're going to have one last audience question before we move to the closing statements. And that question is, what specific code change or consolidation do you think would help grow jobs and the local economy? And we'll start with Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you. It's going to be hard to say specific. I think there's a lot of problems with our land development code. We currently have pending changes in the land development code to change the way we do subdivision, to change the way we regulate development in our activity centers, which is what we call our commercial centers. We've completely redone the zoning code for the University Heights neighborhood so that we can get more jobs at the Innovation Hub. Those are all things that we need to do and need to do quickly. We can, as I mentioned before in my opening, we can get the right results for neighborhoods with less process if we have the right rules on the front end. One project that I've initiated in the last year in the City Commission is something we call the Community Development Review Committee. It's a committee of 8 people, primarily industry participants in the growth management industry, planners, property owners, developers, but also citizen advocates who work in historic preservation and advocate for better communities in Gainesville, who are coming up with recommendations to reform our process so that it's less of a barrier to entry. And those are big changes that are extremely important and we need to work on.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Marsh.
Well, one of the things that comes to mind is that there are some parts of our city that have a number of these overlays, these basically sets of rules and regulations for, you have to pass through each one of these, maybe 4 or 5 layers. And why we don't just combine some of these and the cost thereof so that it doesn't cost so much to get a project started. Because getting a project started is, that's the primary thing. The more it costs to get something started, less likely it is to start. About 26 years ago, my wife and I had opened a store in Trenton, Florida. We were living out there at the time, and Trenton is pretty much a blighted area. And because it was so inexpensive to get started, we were able to open this store. It cost us very, very little money to get started, and about 3 years later, we sold it to someone. And we sold it to someone who then took and built a big building and did some other things to it. And after a while, and they couldn't support the building. So, having low overhead is really the key to any kind of a small startup. And the city needs to do what it can to make sure that it provides that low overhead.
Thank you, Mr. Marsh. Mr. Selwach.
If I understand the question correctly, you want to grow the economy. In order to do this, at least for me, you need to cut my taxes. I'm not going to invest in any more real estate because of my high property taxes. The more money that I have, the more money that I can invest in real estate, develop stuff, and grow jobs. So what we need to do is make government smaller and cut costs to make sure that our taxes are lower, and this will spur development and create jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Selwach. We will now move on to the closing statements, and each candidate will have 1 minute. We will hear the candidates' closing statements in reverse order from the opening statements, which means we will begin with Mr. Selwach.
Hi, my name again is Richard Selwach. We really need to stop this proposed biomass plant. I disagree with Mr. Hawkins' statements that it's good for us and all that. It's going to be heavily subsidized, and the ratepayer is going to pay for it. It's going to be another boondoggle. What nobody talked about tonight was we need to clean up the Cabot Copper's EPA Superfund site off of Northwest 23rd Avenue. We need to create an environmental policy for the city and create home rule so that we don't have this type of problem again. We also need to balance the budget and focus on essential services. If elected, I'll work hard to represent you so that we have government by the people and for the people. Vote Richard Selwach for City Commission at Large 2 on March 15th. Go to www.voteselwach.com for more information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marsh.
Thank you. I grew up in Troy, New York. It's a town that has been steadily in decline since the 1920s. When I was a kid, the sales tax there was 7%, and people in Troy just went across the river to pay 4%. So we pretty much taxed ourselves out of existence. Right now it's pretty much a little antique village, and I really would hate to see us do that kind of thing to our city, to just be increased. And it's a college town too. I mean, there's similarities are eerie. So I would like to preserve the city that we live in, and one of the best things that we can do is to make sure that our young people are able to stay here, to get jobs, and that they get a chance to raise their families here too. If you want more information about me, go to donaldmarsh.com. I'd appreciate all the help you can give me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hawkins.
Thank you. I want to touch on two of the themes, specific issues that we've talked about, and say something about what I've been working on in the last 3 years to make that happen. One is the layers of zoning regulation that someone mentioned. That's exactly right. We do have that in some areas of our community, and it's because we've been amending a land development code over 30 years with good intention, but not always practically the best result. And it's not easy to fix that. We can't just repeal the whole book or wave a magic wand and have it change. It takes hard work. It takes a planning department that's well-staffed, not understaffed. Likewise with RTS. We have some days where RTS moves more than 60,000 passengers a day. That's greater than the capacity of Archer Road. And 2/3 of that cost is covered by the University of Florida. So it takes building those partnerships and hard work to make those kinds of things happen. I'm interested in continuing that hard work for our community in the next 3 years. I think if you look at my resume, my work experience, you'll see that I'm the right person to keep doing it for the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This ends the panel for Gainesville City Commission at Large 2, and thank you to both the candidates and the audience for your participation. This also ends our forum for the day. Thank you very much.